What is going on, guys? My name is Nate the Effing Great. Welcome to another edition of The Game Changer. I'm being joined here by the always charismatic, as well as very outspoken, but in the best way ever, the one and only Karisma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably the best. That's probably the only time I've heard somebody say I'm the best way kind of outspoken.
Well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of the other podcasts I've heard you've been on, and they've mentioned kind of names in there. It's like, this doesn't really do people justice. So I always try to give people, their just due when it comes to all the hard work and effort in here. And this is the second or third episode I've had you on. So honestly, if you know that I'm basically giving her this much credit, you know that she's doing something right. So, and trust me when I say that, it's going to be absolutely amazing, especially with this Sunday when we're going to go watch The Predator. That's going to be
Predator.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Dylan, melons. Somebody's got to at least copy that. It's going to be Keegan Michael Key or something like that. He's going to just copy that line, just make it corny as possible, and I'll just be like, yes. But it's only going to be better if they have Jordan Peele in there just for like a small minute, even if he gets killed off in like 30 seconds. It'll just be funny. We're not here to talk about The Predator, you guys. That'll be more discussed probably a little bit on Sunday. Maybe we'll do like a spoiler-free kind of deal, give our thoughts about it. But we're here to actually talk about some of the best movies that were ever created by a human mind, and that being not live action, nothing live at all, but we're talking about animated movies. So we're going to be going to covering a different few movies. Some will be American-based, some might be Japanese-based, some might be based in Brazil. Who knows? Who knows where they're all going to be? But it's going to be absolutely wonderful. Some of these titles you might be familiar with, or we might just give you some titles that you may want to look into. I know that, me personally, I'm looking forward to seeing what my co-host has to present, because I think a lot of my movies people have already heard and they know about the great success, and that's one of the reasons why I have to mention them on here. So let's just dive right into it. Do you want to start it off, or?
Sure.
Fire away.
I would like to start with actually a Studio Ghibli film, which is titled, wow, my brain is stopping, Pompoko.
What?
Yeah, it is a less known one, actually. It is about tanukis, which are raccoons, basically. They're Japanese raccoons.
Okay.
It's a really fun tale. It was one that I really enjoyed because it got across the point of it was during Japanese development, and these tanukis are fighting against humans because their forests are being destroyed, their homes are being destroyed. That is like the entire premise of the movie. You also get the old wives' tale of the fact that tanuki and foxes and cats are the only ones in Japanese legends who are known to shift into human. They have like transformations. They have illusionary magic, which is a lot of fun. It's a great one for the kids. I actually had my daughter watch it with me the other day. She really enjoyed it. And it doesn't matter if you watch it subtitled or in English. The English cast is a lot of fun. I think Jonathan Taylor Thomas is in it. The Kurgan is in it. I can't remember his name for the life of me at this point.
Kurgan. You piqued my interest. Now I gotta look it up to see who this Kurgan is.
Well, the Kurgan from Highlander.
Oh.
He plays Mr. Krabs.
Well, I found a guy named Kurt. Connor McLeod?
No, Clancy Brown. There we go.
Oh.
Mr. Clancy Brown.
Okay, now I see it. Very interesting. Thank you very much. We're also doing this at Culver's again because why the heck not? And I also got you some French fries just in case you do have something to munch at. My co-host kind of forgot her wallet, so I figured, I have the kindness in my heart, and I know I'm sounding like an egotistical bastard doing this, but it's one of those things where I try to take care of my people. So.
I appreciate it greatly, though.
Yeah. Honestly, it sounds like a really good movie. But also, when you talk about them, battling against humans, it reminds me of like every single Nostalgic Critic video where they always have those movies where it's like the greatest enemy in all of the world,
humans.
Man, duh. And they just like this black and white deal where it's like, yes, man, it's the most notorious thing in all of Japan. But no, it actually sounds really good. And Tanuki, I'm actually kind of familiar with them, but it actually sounds like they go a little more in depth. Do they at least give them, justice with this? Because I know some films...
They do. They really do. They go, like I said, they go deeper into some of the Japanese history of it, which I really enjoyed. They even go into things like, oh, they have different territories and things like that. They have Tanuki who come from different lands who are like illusion artists. They go, man, it was a beautiful movie, and I enjoyed it more because the more well-known ones that you watch, they don't go as deep into the Japanese culture as I personally would enjoy, unless you get Spirited Away, which, oh my gosh. Love that movie. But Pompoko really goes into the depth of just Japanese culture, like I said, their mythology, because, like I said, they literally go into the fact that there are 3 types of things that can transform. Tanukis, fox, and cats. But you've got to be an old cat. They go into a lot of really interesting things, and like I said, the battle with the humans isn't so much, oh, they're trying to kill them, they're trying to scare them away. They're not always being forceful. It's just kind of like, go away, we have nowhere to live anymore.
Kind of like, let us live in peace, let us live in, a place where there's no conflict. Let's live our lives, damn it.
Yes. They even go into the fact that at one point, I think the clan of Tanukis decides that they're not going to have any more children because they don't have enough space.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But they also go into the fact that that's really hard to do for animals because they have those animal instincts and urges.
It's just crazy how a lot of animation, even like back when we were kids, we watch them and we were just looking back at them as adults, and when we were kids, like, this is scary or this is sad or something like that. This is kind of cool. When we look back at it as adults, there's some of those moments where you're just like, wow, this was really dark for us. We went through this,
right?
Holy cow! And honestly, that'll probably be a perfect segue into one of the first ones on here. Was for my list was Fantasia. Now, obviously, a lot of people might disagree that there's not that much dark stuff in Fantasia, but you look back at it.
Not if you've seen the original Fantasia.
Oh gosh, the original Fantasia was one of those things that there were a couple songs where it actually did give me some nightmares, like the Rite of Spring, which is a very beautiful song. Let me put it like this: Fantasia is one of those movies where they just decide, you know what, we're basically making this like an orchestra movie. We're playing a lot of songs. We're just having people show their talents like that, but they're also incorporating animation. They're also incorporating, color and pictures with it. It's absolutely wonderful. Like I said, Rite of Spring is one of the first ones that come to mind, where they talk about the dinosaurs and kind of a little bit about evolution, but they show a lot of these great deals where you see dinosaurs. They're either, just relaxing, they're grazing, they're just cooling off in the water, they're blah, blah, blah. And then when the music picks up, you definitely see something crazy about to happen. That's when, lo and behold, da-da-da, T-Rex comes in and he just spoils everything. They have this dark battle between the T-Rex and the Stegosaurus, which is, oh gosh, it gets so dark.
The music in that movie, though, like, I'm a huge fan of classical music, so some of the music that they use, you're just like, it's stuff that I remember long after. I mean, the animation is beautiful, and you always remember the work that goes with it, but they chose so well as well.
And they also did try to, combine some of that darkness element with some light elements. Like, of course, they incorporate Mickey Mouse into like one of the first few songs. It's The Sorcerer's Apprentice. There's a couple dark moments in there, but it's still like fun and classical. You see Mickey Mouse; he's just trying to have like these broom minions dump water into a well, and then they had the scene with like, I think it was like the Minotaurs and stuff like that. And, they actually look like human beings. It's actually a very beautiful piece. Oh my gosh!
Yes.
And then of course it gets darker in there, but not as dark. But it's just one of those things where it's like for every bright and shiny day, there's a little bit of a darkness to it. And of course they incorporate a lot of the Greek mythology gods involved in there. Like they had Zeus doing his deal, and when he goes back to sleep, where he basically finds a lightning bolt in his quote unquote bed. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yes.
The gators and the hippos was a good one.
Oh, the ballet.
The ballet was very beautiful.
So beautiful.
And I think one of the most memorable ones on there was the, I think it's like Night on Bald Mountain, where they had that, the giant gargoyle, where, oh my gosh, if you were a kid, you were terrified of that guy, until, of course, the very end, when you hear the the gongs, and that's when he just said, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to bed. The demons are just like, what, dude? You're scared of that? And I will say this. There was an episode of House of Mouse where it was kind of funny, where Clarabelle's just interviewing people, getting the GIF or like random dirt on people, and she goes up to the gargoyle from that, and he just goes, I'm afraid of the dark. There, I said it. It's one of those things where it's like, what? That is not true. Come on. Okay, that's funny, but at the same time, it's one of those like, come on, that's not. But getting back to Fantasia, like we said, like we even mentioned before the podcast, Fantasia is such a spectacle, and it's honestly a national treasure. And unfortunately, we got a sequel, which I know so many people are just like, what's so bad about a sequel? Well, let me see here. You tie in a lot of cameos, including Steve Martin, Penn and Teller, a lot of these other random cameos.
A lot of comedians, which it detracted a little bit.
I mean, the music sequences were really good. Don't get us wrong. But I think that with the comedy added there, it watered down what was already something spectacular in the original. Like, in the original, all they had was just random people saying, oh, this is the song, this is how it's going to be played, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Them, of course, comedians have to add a little bit of comedy to it, and it just was like, this is not...
And they're trying to tie it to themselves in some way or another.
It just didn't work.
No.
But...
I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Another piece, just for you Disney fans out there, the Sorcerer's Apprentice part with Mickey Mouse, there's actually a cameo in the movie The Sorcerer's Apprentice, done by Disney, where he does the exact same thing Mickey is doing and is trying to clean up quickly and gets the brooms going, and you literally have that moment of going, they're literally referencing Fantasia in this movie and the part of The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's kind of cool. Well, I know that they did incorporate that again in Fantasia 2000, because...
Of course.
They had to tie in something to make it, realize, like, oh, it's just like the original, but, we're adding different songs to it. But, yeah, Fantasia is honestly a national treasure, and I think there's a lot of people around the world that will definitely remember it for, its bright colors, dark settings, and just absolutely wonderful atmosphere. The orchestra does an absolutely amazing job. This is one of the few times where I would say, like, maybe only like a page worth of dialogue is in this entire movie.
Yeah.
If
that.
Two most, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where you have to watch it and appreciate it in order to get the full grasp of what it is. It's absolutely beautiful. So, what do you got for us next, Karisma?
I have a movie called In This Corner of the World. Again, a Japanese film.
Jeez,
This one you can actually watch on Netflix, though. Oh, really? It's actually on Netflix. It's called This Corner of the World. It is about World War II. And a young Japanese woman in the time frame before World War II starts is her childhood. She has this relationship, not really a relationship, but she has this young man that she's very into. She's very well loved by her family. She's an artist even, which is surprising for a young girl. She does beautiful art, and she ends up being sought after by this young man who she actually meets at the beginning of the movie. I'm not going to tell you where, because if anybody's going out to watch this, you'll enjoy it. He comes and asks for her hand in marriage. Now, she thought this was her childhood friend who was asking. Come to find out it wasn't. And she ends up marrying this young man. They had never really dated or anything like that. That was Japanese culture. And they go into her being with him. Her husband's in the military. Her sister comes to live with them, and she is in Japan when an attack happens, and she watches her niece die, and she loses her hand during the process.
Whoa.
She blames herself for it. She thinks about how she could have done things differently to have saved the little girl. And it's a really beautiful movie that as you go through it, you feel all these emotions, because you're just like, you never get to see that other side. And now I'm not going to say that this is exactly accurate or anything, but this is how they were. They don't make it out to be USA being the bad guys or anything. It's just, this is what happened to them. It's a very beautiful movie.
It definitely does have a little bit of realism to it. That kind of,
And it
brings
made
in the emotions.
Yeah, and it also reminds you, okay, this is history. This is what happened. It wasn't just our side who lost people.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good movie. What was this movie called again?
In This Corner of the World.
This Corner of the World. Wow.
Like I said, check it out. It is on Netflix. It's where I originally saw it, actually.
Yep, I've never even known that was even a thing. But again, it goes back to my point before. Us as kids watching anime, a lot of really dark stuff.
Oh God.
Was this released out recently?
This one is more recent. Pampoko was done in the 90s. This is early mid 2000s movie.
Okay.
Really well done. I mean, I was going to say a lot of anime that I watched as a kid was super dark, but that's because I watched things like Sailor Moon and things that got really weird. But these are movies that you shouldn't miss.
Definitely. I think that the whole, touching on human emotions deal definitely does tie into the next one that I have on my list, which is Inside Out. Which
my heart.
I will say this, that, on paper, when I first saw this, I thought to myself, this just looks very childish. This does not seem like the kind of movie that I would enjoy. And then finally I just said, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance, see what happens. Because it also featured one of my favorite actors, Louis Black. And a lot of times when he's, in movies, he's very funny.
Yes.
But also he can be very vulgar and very graphic with his language. So it's also kind of one of those things where it's like, well, this is also a Disney film. How is he going to transition to that? And to my surprise, he transitioned really well.
He did. It
was one of those things where it's like, you stereotype so many people that you think there's no way that you could have somebody, who's cussing and swearing all the time, be so good in a family-related movie. And to my surprise, he did absolutely very well. But the movie itself, of Inside Out, talks about a girl by the name of Riley who's basically going through this point in her life where she's moving from Minnesota to California and basically going through all of the emotions of moving, which can always be very hard because you have your former life, you have like a lot of your key points.
There's a lot of loss.
A lot of loss. And you have one of the characters, Joy, basically trying to keep everything positive, keep everything good. But of course, sadness, one of the other emotions, she's trying to get involved too without necessarily trying to get involved.
She's just so sad. She can't help it.
I mean, she's trying to help, and she's inadvertently, getting involved. But it's kind of one of those big lessons where, if you don't express yourself, then of course you're going to go into a bit of a dark place, which is what ends up happening. Is that Joy and sadness, they get away from the main control room, and we have the other three emotions, which were anger, disgust, and fear. I believe it was.
Yep.
They're in control and they're trying to keep everything going good, but unfortunately it's not all working out. So we see in the end we see all this stuff just happening, and in the end Joy realizes that sadness is a key role in helping them get through this. And in the end, we see the most emotional scene where Riley, she breaks down crying in front of her parents. She's saying, I miss home, I miss Minnesota, I miss my friends, I miss everything. And in the end, we also see, parents, kind of breaking down too. It's like, I miss Minnesota too. And we just have that really great moment where it's just a family moment where they're just hugging. And it's like, this is what family movies need to be. They need to be realistic. They have a little bit of fantasy to it, but they also need to hit on, subjects that some people are going through. And this is kind of like, some people would definitely call this like a bit of a small issue, but at the same time, some people have always gone through this kind of issue of moving on and taking a big step in life. Yeah. And you see a lot of the emotions that go through it, and they also basically telling the story that, hey, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to do that because it makes you human, and it doesn't always have to, be all about, being happy, because that's going to hurt you more than anything.
But in beginning, end two it's about balance. So many people think, oh, I've got to be happy all the time, or there are some people who cling to that sadness and want to be mopey all the time. But you've got to remember that life is, as hard as it is, life is kind of a balancing act. It's okay to get your emotions out, but you can't wallow in them either. one way or the other. You've got to find that balance. And that's what I also enjoyed when they finally showed the parents' emotions themselves, and the fact that they had that balance, kind of that unity.
Yeah. And I think that's also really cool that they did do that for certain other people. Like, they did show that for the parents. Like, you know, what the mom's kind of going through, and when the dad's kind of, you know, being oblivious and realizing, you know, hey, we have to push the button to, you know, put our
Pay
foot down
attention.
and do the kind of deal. But in the end, like you said, just helping them find that balance to be able to realize, you know, hey, it's okay to, you know, feel these emotions. And then, of course, at the very end, we get just a lot of craziness to it, where they added, you know, the boys' emotions, and they had stuff with the dog and the cat.
Of
and
course.
Honestly, my favorite one is the bus driver.
Oh, God.
So he's just sitting there. He seems completely calm, and it's just basically all on the inside. It's just all looks like just a bunch of anger emotions, but just different colors.
Yep.
and it's just like, it's okay, it's just fine. We just need to go to our happy place. He just presses a button, and it's that triple deck gum commercial jingle.
My God, yes.
That was one of my favorites. Just seeing Lewis Black react to that. It's like, I can literally see him react to this. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you listen to people in this movie, they actually do feel like the characters. I think one of the best examples of that was Vincent Price when he was Professor Ratigan, where you watch him performing on this, and it literally felt like he was there. He wasn't just talking into a microphone. He literally felt like he was this character. And same thing goes for this one. You felt like, you know, Lewis Black was indeed, you know,
that
anger. You feel like, you know, Amy Poehler was indeed, you know, joy. You feel like Mindy was indeed, you know, disgust, because you know them for their outside work. You know how they react and how they do their, you know, works. It works perfectly.
And personally, I enjoy voice acting because there's one thing. I've been to a lot of conventions. I've talked to a lot of voice actors, and there's one thing they say, which is you have to know how to act to be a voice actor, but you don't have to know how to be a voice actor just to be a regular actor, because conveying yourself through just your voice and making that presence, making sure you're conveying those emotions, it's hard to do without your face, without your hands, without all of that extra movement. And when you can really do that, it's amazing, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not saying that acting isn't already hard, but just add an extra step to that. And the fact that they conveyed themselves so well in this, especially people who aren't normally voice actors, it was really well done.
Definitely. Like you said, for people that you see, you know, you're used to seeing a lot of these people. You're used to seeing like Mindy in her, you know, role in The Office, where she's, you know, kind of like this snarky, arrogant little person. You see Amy Poehler do a lot of her deals, especially comedy deals with Tina Fey,
or in Parks and Recs. She's actually a lot like her character is Joy in that.
Where she's just kind of like keeping things happy, keeping things on the positive note. That's really cool. That's really cool. I've never imagined, you know, Amy Poehler to be anything more than just kind of being there, I guess you could say.
And you know, the thing is I definitely recommend checking out Parks and Recs. She is the main character of that show, and I never thought she'd be able to carry a show just her, like, as the main character, but she does a magnificent job. Not to say she doesn't have a great supporting cast, but there you go. There's my plug for a show.
And there's your positive thing to say about Amy Poehler. So.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So from Inside Out, what do we got next on the wonderful, the bed that is animation?
I'd like to talk about my favorite movie now. I'm not going to say it got lots of awards, but my favorite movie of all time is a Disney movie called The Little Mermaid.
Ooh, baby.
That movie came out when I was born. Like, it came out the year I was born, right around the time that I was born. It was, as a girl who loved to swim, I grew up in Texas, so everywhere had a pool. So as a girl who loved to swim, the idea of there being a mermaid and the story of The Little Mermaid was just, it was captivating to me. And the music in that movie, oh my goodness, I absolutely loved it. I also love the fact that they had to take that stance with Ariel when she didn't have her voice, they had to think about how she was going to try and convey her emotions, how she was going to convey what she was trying to let them know. And I think they did a really wonderful job at that. I mean, her trying to be like, it was like playing 20 questions with her. And they really did a great job. They showed her emotion, her frustration a bit with it, and, you know, lots of hand movements and gestures and...
Well, it was kind of like what Ursula was saying. I think she said something about,
body language?
Don't forget about body language.
Yes.
It's one of those things where, I will say this. This was probably definitely one of those movies that does stand out as far as, some of the best of Disney works, because of the fact that you do see, something different. I mean, we're so used to the whole damsel in distress joke. She was not exactly that. I think for like 2/3 of the movie, she was actually pretty active in this.
I was going to say, I never found she was the damsel in distress, mostly because if you stop and think about it, she saved him first.
This is true. And honestly, just everything that you mentioned there, from the story-wise, it's good. Characters are amazing. Songs are just absolutely memorable. I mean, whether it's Under the Sea or Kiss the Girl, okay. Obviously, the two main ones that stand out are sung by Jamaican crustacean.
Hey, my favorite will still always be about her thingamabobs.
Oh, yeah. But it's literally one of those stories about, just going out and venturing and finding out about the great unknown, because there's only so much that you can really, grasp in the reality that you're in. And that's one of the things that I enjoy most, especially people that are so open-minded. They realize that, hey, there's more to life than just the status quo. And I think that's also one of the things that really makes, King Triton even a memorable character, is the fact that he's a dad, that, he wants to take the status quo, but he also cares enough to know that, hey, maybe this isn't one of those things that I thought was deadly. Maybe this is actually more...
He also had to realize that, he was that overprotective father, and I enjoyed seeing that, because it was a reminder to the parents who are watching this movie that you can protect your children. And even rewatching as an adult with my own child, knowing that I can protect her from so much, but by the same token, you can't completely smother them. You can't take everything and say, oh, you can only do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And also ties into another movie of mine that I have on my list. And, we're going to make this a little bit about the Disney section, because there's one other movie that we don't have on our list, but we'll still mention it on here. For my list on here, and this is definitely going to be a big brown nose to my co-host, Victory Bell, because this is her all-time favorite movie, Beauty and the Beast.
Oh.
It's a tale as old as time, true as it can be. It's a story about finding beauty within, and for Belle, it's finding beauty within the Beast, and for the Beast, he finds beauty within her, not just because she's beautiful on the outside, but also realizing that she's something different on the inside. It's just an amazing story, and I loved also how they did the live action one as well.
Oh God, yes.
And I know we're getting a little off topic, but at the same time, I think that both movies kind of complement each other in a way, and they're both different in a lot of ways, but also in the best ways. Like, you definitely see more developments with, Belle and with Gaston in the live action one, but you also see more focus on some of the characters, some of the supporting cast in the original one.
Yes.
You see a little more of what Lumiere is all about. You see a little more what Cogsworth is all about. You see more what Mrs. Potts is, kind of like, you really do get that feeling about, how they are indeed, still loyal to the Beast, even though they probably could have, they could have been. But obviously in the live action one, they mentioned, hey, we were a part of this kid's life, and we're not going to just
abandon him. Yeah.
It's just wonderful. And that's kind of implied in the original,
yes.
But they didn't really need to say it, because you already kind of knew. It's like, we're loyal to him. We love this kid, even though he's a bit of a brat. We still know that he's...
For the life of me, and it kills me, because I'm usually good with the actor's name, the live-action Gaston, he was perfect.
Luke Evans
was... that man embraced that role to the point where you're just like, oh my God, you cocky man. You cocky man child, you.
It's just...
He sold it.
He really did. But it's another one of those movies that definitely does get a lot of recognition, and it's one of the only animated pictures to get nomination in the Oscars for Best Picture.
Yes.
So that tells you a lot about this movie, and it's absolutely just, again, wonderful. Some dark moments, of course, because why not? And I think that, how they really portray the Beast, they definitely do make it very dark with him to begin with, but then you see the layers kind of add on to him, and it goes from like really dark to just getting lighter. You kind of understand, where his pain is coming from. You understand how there can be good inside of him, even though to start off he was just this, very angry, arrogant, overzealous dude that obviously realized, I'm going to be a beast forever, whatever. But then finally he's reached a point where it's like, maybe I won't be. Maybe there is actually love in this world. And you start seeing that kind of, it's like reading a book. You start reading one chapter of him, and at first you're just like, I don't like this guy. But then when you go into the next chapter, it's kind of like, okay, maybe there's something to work with him. And the third one, it's like you're rooting for the guy. You're rooting for him to get the girl. And it's just one of those things where it does create one of the most emotional scenes at the very end, where we see, of course, he knows about, he knows that, he loves her, but he wasn't so sure about
if she loved him.
If it was going right back, exactly. And this is one of the most crazy things, you guys. When it comes down to it, Disney always knows how to create some very dark moments, but make them very memorable. Like, choose a reason. I mean, Tarzan's definitely one of the highest ones, but that's not on the list.
It was a good movie, though.
For this one, they actually showed a bit of a death scene in this movie. It's scary to see that, where he basically talks about, at least I got to see you one last time. It's like, this is a kid's movie, damn it. How are you saying this in a kid's movie? Why? But also, it makes that movie that much more captivating, that much more beautiful. And the other movie that we were mentioning before was Aladdin. And how it's so wonderful. It definitely does teach a lot of people about, hey, it's fine to be yourself. You don't have to, you don't
have to have money. You don't have to have these social standards. It's okay.
You don't have to live by, again, the status quo. If you be yourself, you're going to find true love. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. It's kind of and one of the things I did mention with Aladdin is that it feels like it's all about freedom in the end. Because obviously the main thing is that Genie wants to be free from being the genie. For Aladdin, he wants to be, free to, be himself, but also to not be in the kind of sluggish spot that he's at. Jasmine, she wants to be free from just
all
locked
the
up
things that she's been told she has to be and has to do.
And it's just such a very good movie. And it's one of those like deep meanings that I never thought I would think about until I was like, this connects to this, and this connects to this, and then, oh my gosh, this really is what this movie's all about. And I think it is kind of sad that it took probably one death to really realize that, and that being, of course, the late great Robin Williams, who definitely stands out as one of the most memorable characters in all of Disney. And I know people are going to be saying, there's Mickey, there's Minnie, and stuff like that. But when you look at like other things other than the main people, who stands out in Disney? Well, there's Ariel. Who else? Aladdin. Who else? Genie. There you go. Mm-hmm. He's just one of those characters that is always fun. He's always just trying to be like that friend, but also kind of be that person that is always trying to guide people down that right path. And it's just so beautiful, so beautiful. And the fact they're making a live action one worries me a little bit, but I'm hoping that they do at least do justice.
I'm hoping that they do justice. I'm also trying my best, because I get really judgmental before a movie comes out. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm trying to go into it with an open mind, because who knows, maybe they could do an amazing job. Are we all still gonna always miss Robin Williams? Of course. Because my biggest thing was when he passed, is telling people he was like family member to me. That was like watching your favorite uncle. Hey, man.
It's really crazy, because when you also think about Robin Williams, you not only remember like all the comedy that he did, but also like the really heartfelt scenes that he had. The final goodbye to Aladdin is one that stands out. There was a conversation that he had in Good Will Hunting, I think it was.
Oh, yes.
That stands out. I think I would even say, like, his final speech, his final monologue at the end of Mrs. Doubtfire is one of the most...
His final speech at the end of World's Greatest Father is also an amazing speech. There's also Dead Poets Society, when he's speaking to those kids and reminding them, what literature truly was, what poetry truly was, which wasn't just, a way to make money. It was a way to capture the heart of a young woman. He embodied so many beautiful characters. Patch Adams was a great movie as well. He's just greatly missed.
He is. Trust me, he's not the only one on this list that is going to be greatly missed, but we'll get into that. I'll definitely talk about that in my next pick, but we still got to get through your pick, which you actually have some really good picks for your last two. So
yes.
What's up to bat first?
I think I'm going to end with... No, I'll end with that one. I'm going to go with Kubo and the Two Strings.
Okay.
Done by Leica Studios. It was a beautifully done movie. I really enjoyed it. It had the Japanese aspects that you would want from the tale that it tells. It's about a young boy who literally, his mother came from the heavens to execute the man who would become his father, and instead fell in love with this man and sacrificed her immortality to be with him and to have her son. He has a grandfather who's after his eyes so that he could become an immortal and come back to the kingdom where they don't really have emotions. They don't really have those what they call human flaws. And it's just a beautiful movie where you have to watch a young man who is running and trying to gather these items so that he can fight his grandfather, basically. His mother actually embodies a charm and becomes a monkey in it. He finds his father, who was turned into a giant beetle, and they had no idea that was his father, but they spent the whole time traveling together. And it's kind of a sad moment when you realize that these two people who had been so in love had been separated for so long and then put back together and not even realized it. You get a lot of emotion throughout this movie, and the ending I won't spoil for people who haven't seen it, but I recommend seeing it because the ending isn't even what you would expect it to be. But it's very interesting. It's beautiful and is beautifully done. Their stop motion Leica Studios stop motion animation is just, they're pretty they're top tier for me when it comes to stop motion animation.
Yeah. I still need to watch that movie because it definitely does seem like it's very much a watch.
Also on Netflix for anybody who wants to see it.
Man, Karisma's being a Netflix promoter right now, but you know what?
It's not even the Netflix part, it's the fact that most people have it, and if you want to see those movies, please watch them. That's all I want, please.
Fair enough. So that's definitely going to be on my list. I mean, I've already watched a couple movies. You've probably seen the movies I've seen this week, and I've done reviews on them, so
yeah.
Just very good movies, and I think I might need to do a review on this one too, just to see what's like. So the next one on my list is a movie that's going to be kind of hard to talk about considering one of the great actors in this movie did pass away, and that was the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh.
Don Bluth, you are a genius. Holy cow. This was one of those movies that I think definitely separated from, Disney, and a lot of people realize, we don't have to just rely on Disney to get these kind of animated movies. Then I think it was MGM Studios that produced this movie.
Yes.
This was just very, very well done. It talks about a dog by the name of Charlie. Who's a con artist. He's a gambler. He's a scammer, and he gets murdered by his cohort. Carface. Yes, Carface.
Carface.
Not Scarface. Carface. Just remember that. He honestly, I don't even think they even make a joke about, how his name is.
No.
Almost very similar to Scarface. Although I think it would have been funny if he would have just had there is a moment where he does pull out a Tommy gun. But I'll get to that. I do remember that. But basically his cohort Carface, basically tries to get him murdered. Charlie ends up in heaven, but then he finds a way to get back down. He's basically given himself a second chance. And always this voice, from one of the angels, Gabriel, who's basically saying, if you touch that clock and wind it back, you can never come back.
Yep.
So there's always that feeling of knowing if this watch is done, he's basically going to hell. And there's a scene where basically he's having a nightmare.
shown
He's shown basically what hell would be basically like.
Is gonna look like.
Oh my gosh, that.
Which, by the way, that gave me a nightmare as a kid. I'm not gonna lie.
And during this movie, we see Charlie kind of develop more of a heart because of the fact that he meets with this young girl by the name of Anne Marie, who can somehow talk to animals, and it's absolutely kind of one of those things where she is completely innocent, but she's also kind of like one of those lovable characters that you just feel like, if I ever had a daughter, I'd want her to be my kid. And
by the way, as somebody who was pregnant when she rewatched that movie the last time with a little girl, I cried because oh my god, she was an orphan. I remember looking at my daughter's father and going and crying. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "That little girl is an orphan. She doesn't have anybody to love her."
Let me just adopt her, please.
Pretty much.
I want to just give her the biggest of big hugs. It's just a very beautiful story. And it's all about, for Charlie, it's redemption. Because he lived this one life of being, like I said, being a gambler, being a con artist. He's living a life of bad. And during the first parts of the movie, the angel's basically saying, I don't see any, good in you. All it's showing, pictures of him, gambling.
Being a naughty dog.
Being a thief. And of course, in the end, he does probably the ultimate good deed, which was giving his life for
Anne Marie.
And it's very beautiful. And the reason why we do mention this, and this is one of the most emotional movies to talk about, is the fact that unfortunately this past week, ladies and gentlemen, the late great Burt Reynolds, who voiced Charlie the dog, unfortunately passed away due to a heart attack. So first of all, thoughts and prayers go out to the Reynolds family. He is sorely, sorely going to be missed. I'm actually getting emotional just talking about it because I remember so many of the great things that he did. This is the one movie that introduced me to Burt Reynolds, and he did an absolutely phenomenal job portraying Charlie.
One thing is, I'm only going to say you missed one character, and that's Itchy. His best friend,
yep, Itchy,
voiced by Dom DeLuise, who had passed away a few years ago. And all I can think is, hopefully that they are reunited. Finally, because they had done so many things together. They were very close friends. So
literally you're telling me that All Dogs Go to Heaven 4 is basically playing in heaven right now.
Pretty much.
This is not fair. Life is not fair anymore. Oh my gosh. No, I do feel bad for not mentioning Itchy. He was one of those guys that every now and then he would get annoying, but then there's sometimes where it's like, everybody has that one friend there that just...
Well, and you also had to realize... Itchy was there for him through everything. It took Charlie till the end to realize, he was using his friend. And he actually apologizes to him and tells him how much he means to him, which I always enjoyed because I've been that friend where you're always there for somebody and they kind of just walk all over you. And, most of the time you don't get that person to come around and realize that's what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic movie. Definitely one of the most underrated and almost forgotten movies.
I agree.
I mean, we remember watching it as kids and just standing out as one of the best. And like I said, Don Bluth, who was, I think, a producer for Disney for a few years, he went out on his own. He created one of this and one more that we'll get to, which I'm also going to regret because it's definitely going to break out some emotions because it has one of the saddest things in the entire cinema history. Damn it all. But still talking about, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Obviously, we've both vocalized it. We're not a fan of, the sequels that would eventually come up. And it would have been awesome to see Burt Reynolds in, the next All Dogs Go to Heaven, but we got Charlie Sheen, which... we still got Dom Louise for, the second and the third one, so
True.
At least one redeeming quality about it is, Don, sticked around for all three of them. But
I love Dom DeLuise.
although it is kind of funny how he also plays, and this is not part of the list either. How Dom also played Tiger in American Tail and American Tail Back to the West, and one of the lines is "Dogs, I hate dogs," and it's funny because you play a dog in a different universe. So is there a point where you just... That would have been funny if you would have just said I hate cats. No, the second one he gets scared of a cat. So it's kind of one of those things where you just...
It's fun.
It's funny just kind of see two universes, both have different fears,
Same.
Somehow it makes it's an infinite circle of just hilarious.
Especially seeing as they have the exact same voice. So if they ever talk to each other, they'd be like, what the... Why do you sound like me?
It's like a Carter Peterschmidt talking to the doctor from Family Guy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you sound like me. Really? I don't hear it. Well, I don't hear it. Oh, wait, no, now I hear it.
Somebody got lazy.
It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. And again, very, very little talked about it, but it's definitely one of those movies. Definitely stop at the first one. After when he reaches the second one.
You don't need the other ones. Just watch the first. The first had a great enough ending that you don't even need to think that there are anymore, personally.
No, definitely. Definitely agree with that. All right, so we are down to the final 2 movies in our animation episode.
All right.
You first. I hate the fact that I'm ending it on a very sad movie, but
we'll get through this, I promise. All right, my final movie is actually, again, from Leica Studios. It is Coraline. I really enjoyed Coraline because, first off, I loved the book, which was originally written by Neil Gaiman. I feel like he's not given enough credit for his things. He actually, American Gods, the new show that they did, was based off of another one of his books. But this was a kid's book that he wrote that actually got recognized and awarded for being so fantastic. It's a great story because it, like Inside Out, is one of those changing movies, that time of change. She's moving, she moves across country, leaving her friends behind. She's feeling like her parents are just the worst bad guys ever because they you can tell are stressed as well. They're stressed from this move. They're stressed from the fact that they're both writers for like catalogs and things like that. So they're trying to get this sold so that they've got more money coming in. You can tell that they're stressed, but she's seeing them as the bad guys in this tale of, well, you're not doing what I want you to do. And we've all been there as kids, where we thought our parents were, like, specifically doing this to hurt our feelings kind of thing.
I think our parents are Satan incarnate.
Well, and so she ends up finding the other mother. This... I still think that she's fae, but she's said to be a witch that's she's basically on the other side of this tiny little door that she finds. She ends up with the other mother, and the other mother seems wonderful. She gives her everything she wants. You can have whatever you want for dinner, and you can do whatever you want. Here are these new clothes, and all you have to do at the end is give me your eyes. And she realizes that this is a horrible idea. What am I doing here? And when she finally decides no longer to go, the other mother takes her parents. And she has to go through saving not only them, but the children who had had their eyes taken before her. It's a very creepy and weird movie, but it's also very interesting. It's got a lot of great themes as well. Just first off, you also got Keith Davis. You can't go wrong with Keith Davis, especially as a black cat. Come on, he's amazing. But it's got a lot of themes of like just realistic themes. Where you're going through those changes in your life. She's also about 12, so she's going through puberty. She's a preteen, for goodness sake. But I'm also a person who enjoys fantasy, so seeing something so fae-like in my mind being brought in to the limelight was very interesting for me as an adult. I recommend being careful showing it to your kids, because while it's a kids movie, my daughter did not take well to it. She said she enjoyed it, then she ended up having some bad dreams because of it, but it's very well done, and again, the stop motion animation, oh my god. Leica Studios, they can have all of my money.
Well, it's kind of amazing, because I do remember watching this movie, and I think the only previous stop motion film that I've probably seen other than this, well, actually 2 of them, I guess I could say, would have to be Nightmare Before Christmas, thank you. And I think James and the Giant Peach, I think are the only 2 that...
Both great movies, though.
That were, and again, both have darker themes, and I do agree that this one is one of those movies that, it seems very captivating, seems very good. Trailers, they do kind of tone it down just a little bit, but then when you get to the movie, it's what you would expect. It's just definitely a lot better than what a lot of people definitely would give it credit for. It
wasn't given its just credit, in my opinion.
Oh gosh, I will agree that the way that it transitions from this nice bright and colorful deal to just dark, dreary, and basically scarring. That is basically how you would best describe this movie. It's very well done though, and I think it does boil down to just appreciate what you do have and not what you don't have.
Yes,
I think that's probably the best way to describe the movie, because otherwise you are going to be blinded by the riches that other people have instead of having a clear vision of what you have right now.
Yeah, and see, I never even stopped to think about it. That is a great theme, and one of the greatest themes of that movie is just the fact that, oh my god, how often do we do the grass is always greener on the other side thing? And especially as kids. I mean, I did that as a kid a lot.
Yeah, I do remember doing that too. But yeah, it's just a wonderful movie. Another great, stop animation movie, and I'm hoping that they do more. I think that when they come out with these kind of movies, they're definitely one of a kind. They're definitely memorable.
Yes.
Well, mainly because they feel realistic, but also because you definitely still feel animated. It's like a 50-50 deal.
Yeah, and they're so artistically, done.
Yes, I do agree with that. All right, so...
Are we ready for the sad note?
We're ready for the sad note. So, my number one best animated movie, and guys, I want to state this, I'll put it even in the description, this is subjective, so don't be giving us a bunch of the hate comments, but also be sure to let us know what your favorite animated movies are in the comment section below. So, subjectively, best animated movie of all time is the Minions movie.
What?
God, no. God, no.
This isn't what we agreed on.
I had to get that genuine reaction where it's like, it has to be the most random movie that either nobody cares about or just, why would you even mention that in this list? I do apologize for everybody that I offended. The actual number one on here is The Land Before Time.
Oh.
It is just an absolutely wonderful movie. And yes, it created about 8 sequels and one seasoned animated cartoon series. I want those to be forgotten, because this is one of those movies where by itself, on its own,
it should have been just the one.
It should have been the one, exactly. But yeah, this is just a movie about a little long neck called Littlefoot who basically travels with his friends to find the Great Valley, and of course he has to go through a bunch of encounters with danger and so many life-altering deals. I mean,
starting with his mother at the beginning.
Oh my gosh, that I did a list of top most emotional moments in movies history. This was one of them, because already right off the bat, you definitely just feel the connection that Littlefoot had with his mother. I mean, they mention, oh yeah, there's his grandparents, but they really don't give him really much justice until, sadly, the sequels.
Yeah.
But that withstanding, it's still one of those relationships that you see, where she's basically talking to Littlefoot about, what the great circle of life is and everything that goes on in the world, and it's just so very well done. And this is only within the first, I want to say, 5-10 minutes of the movie, and then she gets killed off by a sharp tooth. Oh my gosh, it is one of the most emotional deaths in all of cinema. But I will say this, they did an absolutely amazing job with the follow-up to that, where Littlefoot, he is devastated, he's distraught, he is in tears. And there's just this other dinosaur, basically at first he's just kind of being a dick, and he's just be like, what's your problem? You're not hurt. But then after he finds out, why Littlefoot is all emotional, he starts talking about, hey, this is the great circle of life. Unfortunately, this is what happens. But, in a way, you still carry her within you. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most beautiful speeches that you will ever hear to follow a death, because a lot of times when they do deaths, it's, something that follows up with some kind of comedy routine or something that was like, well, this certainly happened for no apparent reason, but the way they followed up this one is perfect, because it's one of the best words of it of comfort that you could get from somebody saying, and that's always one of those things that I always keep to my heart is that, even though they're gone physically, emotionally and spiritually, they're still within us. They're still with us. And of course, we get into the great adventures where, he encounters, Sarah, Spike, Ducky, Petrie, all these people that turn out to be, all these, random other dinosaurs that turn out to be, some of his closest friends. And of course, you have the conflicts of, of course, between Sarah and Littlefoot, where they both have
who's got to be in charge.
Yep, who's got to be in charge? Who's right? Who's wrong? Who's this? And it's just so very well done, and it has an amazing climax at the end. Oh my gosh, the final battle with the sharp tooth is just absolutely amazing. All these little dinosaurs working together to take down this mammoth thing. Is it realistic? No, but you don't care. It's one of those things where it's like, you killed Littlefoot's mother. You deserve to die. You deserve to die, yes. Man, we just tuned into our inner Agent Cooper at that point where it's like, you deserve to die. It's just a very well done movie. And I know you mentioned how this is another one of those movies that definitely hits you emotionally because...
not only did it hit me emotionally as the movie itself, but the girl who played Ducky, she also played... I just forgot her name. The little girl.
I need to look that up. Was it a movie that I was familiar with?
No, we just... All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Oh, Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie. She also played Anne-Marie. She was on her way to a great start to her career. And her father, sadly, not only took her life, her mother's, her sister's, and his own at a very young age. I can't remember which movie it is, but if you see, there is a tribute at the end for her and her passing, because she couldn't be more than 12.
Are you serious?
When she died. She was, like I said, she was a child star. She was very young. And it was really heartbreaking. And I didn't know that until much later in my life.
Oh my God.
How old was she?
She was 10.
She was 10.
Oh my gosh.
She was 10 years old.
Golly damn it.
And it was, honestly, it was a real tragedy.
And while I'm just looking at this from Wikipedia, Don Bluth actually credits her quite a bit, saying that she was absolutely astonishing. She understood verbal direction even for the most sophisticated situations, and he intended to feature her extensively in his future productions. The end credits song, Love Survives, was dedicated in her memory. Was that from both? Oh, that's at the end. That was at the end in All Dogs Go to Heaven. Okay.
There you go. Like I said, I couldn't remember which movie it was, but...
I mean, for a girl that age, 10 years, to make that kind of impact on a director like Don Bluth that's saying a lot.
Yep.
And for him to basically say, yeah, she understood everything. She was absolutely astonishing. And just to realize that this is turning into one of the sadder episodes. I was hoping we were going to talk positively about animated stuff, but at the same time, we're talking positively about some of the people that definitely put their hearts into these movies.
And we are. And it may be sad that they're lost, but again, she's going to live on, not only through any of her family, but through the people who watched those movies, for the people that those impacted, because I can tell you for sure I've shown my daughter both of those movies, because they're good movies, and they're things that I don't want to see go away. Because she did amazing things. Burt Reynolds did amazing things. I want people to remember them. And maybe the endings may be sad for how they went, but remember them as amazing.
I definitely do agree with that. I mean, we definitely will always have positive things to talk about. Burt Reynolds, Robin Williams, a lot of these actors who have definitely died at a very young age, and it's because of the fact that either because of medical conditions that were beyond their control, or because of the fact that they were not careful. I remember so many quotes that Robin Williams had where he talked about, how love is the most important thing. Unfortunately for him, taking his own life, it's one of those things where it's like there was obviously something that was missing there that we didn't lead on to, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so vocal when it comes to suicides. If you notice somebody having a really tough time and they're not being themselves, talk to them. They may say that they don't want to talk about it, but they will definitely appreciate the fact that you're going to sit there and listen to them. And don't just force it out of them. Definitely do not. Definitely,
But I always, as somebody who's gone through a lot of moments of wanting to do exactly that, always remember that there's somebody to talk to. You can always get help. That there are people who care about you, even if you feel like you're all alone. I promise you, there are people who, when you're gone, it's going to hurt them. And I want people to consider that and remember that it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do everything on your own.
And I think that's also what makes these anime movies very well, is that it may seem like, people are doing these journeys on their own, but they're never really alone. Whether they physically do have friends that are always there for them or family, they always have somebody in their hearts that's always going to be there for them no matter what. It's like a guardian angel complex. It's one of those things that you're always going to have somebody with you no matter what. So never feel like you're alone. Never feel like when you're talking to somebody that you are just a burden. Never feel that way. Just talk to others, let them know how you're feeling, and also for those that are noticing these symptoms of depression, talk to them. Be there for them and make a difference. That's always the most important thing when it comes to life. And honestly, this is going to be a hard way to end this episode with that kind of message, but it's a message that still needs to be taken out, and especially on the day that we are doing this. It is September 11th. 17 years ago, we had one of the most tragic events to happen in our country's history. And there are still a lot of people that are going through the turmoil as well as the pain of losing somebody. So for everybody that's been affected by the attacks, we have our thoughts, our condolences, and positive prayers, everything going your way. You definitely have people that will never be forgotten. But also, this is one of those times where you realize that they wouldn't want us to be in sorrow. They would want us to stay strong, to live through them vicariously and have their memories still be strong. And that's one of the best things that you can do. Even though they're gone, their memories will only die if you forget them. If you remember them, their memories, their legacies, they will never die. That's the best gift that we can give somebody.
It's like Coco.
Oh gosh, that's a really good movie. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
We've come full circle with this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been The Game Changer. Thank you so much for joining us here, and thank you, Karisma, for opening the floodgates to our hearts with just the apps. This is a really good list, though. I'm glad that we took this and made it into something that much more. So again, you guys, never forget who loves you. Always make a difference. And always be happy with life, because even though you may think that it's going to be shitty, and trust me, we know from experience that our country is not exactly in the best shape, but there's always positives with the negatives. Always think more of the positives. So for Karisma, I've been Nate the Effing Great. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.